But I think it's really worthwhile with all these fabulous speakers to have everyone come back on stage. There'll be one mic out there, and we'll have one mic up here, for those of you who are not still mic'd. And yeah, one we need out on the floor. Okay, so take your pick. You heard a lot. Any questions? Come on, there's got to be somebody who's itching to ask something of these guys. Okay, oh, here we go. Third floor, third range. Got one. It's always a bit of a delay, and eventually the hands come up. Yep.
Will Wall Street take over all we have today?
You guys get that?
Sorry,
will Wall Street take over all the crypto exchanges?
You know, this is a little like, that's a fun question because
yeah, so we did the first level.
I think of
just going
what
to the second version now.
Yeah,
the
I'm on.
part we want to be able to look at now is, so for example,
I think of what happened to media.
You can have
Netflix took over media.
Wallet, like a digital wallet.
So I'm actually not, I'm thinking
now,
Wall Street
like,
is going to collapse under its own weight.
Got an
And
echo here.
the winners there are going to be like Coinbase or whoever. Ledger maybe.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to be Wall Street being able to reinvent. As much as they're fighting this and as much as they're, if any of the banks broke rank and said, hey, we're going to be the Bitcoin bank, all of a sudden they could be a real player. But until then, they're going to just keep resisting. They're all lining up against it. I think they're in trouble.
Yeah, banks don't move fast enough to really be able to be competitive in the space. Personally, I think there's no chance of it.
First design product to take an identity of a smartphone.
180 degrees opposite of where cryptocurrencies need to be, and it's going to become a very fast-moving space.
I'm licensing it to a few other companies right now, and getting some traction with that.
I think it's this one. I'm just
physical access, logical access, smart
anyway.
locks. Yeah. So
well, what are they talking about in there?
Yeah, exactly. We got. Yeah, good.
That sounds pretty interesting. Right,
it's somebody listening in, I think, guys. And it can only ever be that kind of. There's the NSA. I'm sorry. Who's anybody else got a question here? Here we go, Dwayne. Yeah.
Can we kill all these?
Well, I think this is the point. Yeah, we will do that. Yeah, turn these off. Let's turn them off. Dwayne, you got a question? Here we go. You guys continue.
I believe it's called the taxonomy of. I'm just trying to recall but taxonomy. There's some legislation that's coming out. This taxonomy related to cryptocurrencies. Tax, yeah. Thank you. Listen, but whatever. Do you think that'll pass?
Oh, now that's not on. Jeez. Sorry, guys.
Whether it passes or not, it's marketing by legislation.
Here we go. Try that.
Whether it's what's going to rule the world going forward, who knows? But it's part of the story of regulatory arbitrage, which is a global competition right now.
Okay. Any other questions? Up the front here. You guys got the mic.
So I have a question about like blockchain, like land and stuff, with like properties and stuff like that. How far away is stuff like that are we for like properties being put on the blockchain and stuff like that?
Anybody can take it.
It's a question of willpower. There are some places where we have well-established land registries that give us some ideas of what work and what don't, or what works and what doesn't. But as a practicing lawyer, I knew that, my deals were going to stop dead once I crossed into a jurisdiction that didn't have a viable land registry, because you couldn't perfect a security interest and your deals would die. So we're seeing prototypes of land registries come out in a number of countries that don't have well-established land registries. So we'll see.
And what about
by the way, that's an area I'm very interested in. So if anybody is starting something that is going to do title.
So Medici Ventures, who we heard from earlier, Jonathan Johnson was talking about some of their work. They are involved with the state of Wyoming in terms of title.
Right, because that's one thing I've been researching a lot, and I've been trying to get more
There's
information.
a number of pilots going on around the world. I mean,
Right.
and here in the U.S.
Like
as
in
well.
also,
Africa, I own an island in Africa. I'm not sure I actually own it.
Right. Right.
You know, it's a little strange, but I'm not sure I actually own it.
And I don't know if it's like the same question. What about like food distribution, like distributing food around the world with blockchain also? I don't know if that's been like talked about either, because I know there's been like problem with like supplying food around.
Well, the whole supply chain of everything, not food, everything is going to be tokenized, and all the various computers around the world are going to all communicate with each other and pay each other for the services that they render. And that will kind of change. That's where IoT really starts to fly.
I think a lot of it comes down to basically the speed of regulation. And I think it's going to move faster in some jurisdictions than others. But I think we'll see more of that probably. And I think we're already seeing it in some. There's a couple of countries in Saudi, like over in the Middle East, are actually looking at this very closely in terms of moving registries over to the blockchain. But I think we'll see more mature markets starting to look at that as we get legislation around security tokens more defined.
Okay, any other questions? One at the front here.
Could I add one other thing? I think that's an interesting question, the food supply chain, real quick. I personally think that's one of the low-hanging fruits. Walmart just recently described that they were going to have their produce vendors put their products on the supply chain. And you have things like the romaine lettuce recall, where you have huge amounts of money, huge amounts of produce just being wasted. So those types of applications are perfect for blockchain because you have lots of disparate entities all working on the same system. So it's a perfect solution, and there's a huge cost. So I think that's actually going to be one of the low-hanging fruits and one of the first places we really see it start to be used.
You guys all see lots of different kinds of crypto companies all over the world, and I was just wondering, what are some of the more like obscure, out-of-the-box applications for blockchain that you guys have heard?
How many white papers have you had?
Of course, the toughest question comes from a Draper University alum. Thank you. You know, it's funny because I've seen, blockchain for a medical device or whatever, and a lot of the uses don't make sense, and we get thousands, and a lot of them don't make sense. I tend to focus on the ones that do, so I won't kind of go into all the ones that don't. So I'm kind of, the ones I'm the most excited about are, where you're going to transform the banking system, you're going to transform the legal system, the accounting system, you're going to transform the way we all buy product, the way we transform healthcare, government. All of those, I think, are big opportunities. And I think that the blockchain actually operates in such a way that it actually ends up being, like, if you think about how it could operate, it could be the perfect bureaucrat. It could replace the need for all those people pushing paper, and they'll end up doing things that are much more interesting with their lives.
Okay, one more I would think we have time for. Yeah, just up the front there. Maybe two. Should be on, I think.
For the smart contracts company, what kind of considerations do you think about when you design the smart contract system? How far could it go? And what are some of the limitations of smart contracts, and what kind of dispute resolutions issues you would think about?
Oh, that's right up my alley. So I spent 18 years as a dispute resolver, right? So one of the fundamental truths I learned in 18 years was that technological improvements in electronic contracting coded out a whole lot of disputes. So thinking about dispute resolution is sort of the tail wagging the dog. It's one of those things to be aware of in risk and risk analysis. But really the considerations you have to pay attention to is if you're going to build and launch an application, you're probably going to be running a business. It probably already has a pre-existing business structure that the smart contract needs to be aware of in order to operate robustly. And so tying together all the various pieces of best-in-class solutions as opposed to buying a monolithic product is really going to be the challenge, but it also gives us the ability to pick and choose and be really nimble in our solutions.
Yeah, that was just going at it from kind of the technology side. Smart contract development has already driven forward. There's been a lot of really exciting breakthroughs in the InfoSec space on kind of the auditing side of smart contracts because there's so much at stake. Because if you break a smart contract, it just wipes out millions of dollars of value. There's been the hacks that have happened in the smart contract space have done a lot of damage to crypto, but they've also been learning experiences that have just kind of raised the bar around InfoSec. So there's been there's a lot of groups working on things like formal verification where they actually just have much higher standards for security on these things than we've seen in any code base in the past. Something like Windows will never be secure because there's just so many lines of code that there's not any real way to make Windows secure. So we'll keep seeing hacks in Windows, but whereas smart contracts have a much higher bar for development, it's actually making the entire, it's actually starting to trickle down into other ways code's written.
Okay, I think we need to wrap it up.
I've been doing this for 20 years. I had my first and...
That was weird. Disembodied conversation there.
I'm live.
You're doing that, you're feeling something over there, aren't you? All right, so thanks everyone. I'm just going to have a quick break. I know that we've eaten to lunchtime. Some of you already obviously availed yourself of food, which is great. I'm not sure how much time we have, but just a little bit of a break would be valuable, and then we'll be back with more programming. So thanks very much for the panel here, everybody. A round of applause.